Can we test our microphones before we start?
Test. Yeah. Okay.
Hold on, are we? Mayor, can I go ahead and start the cloud? Hold on.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. This is the Sutter Creek City Council meeting on March 2nd. Pam, can you please do a roll call?
Council members Swift, Vice Mayor Cirque,
Here.
Mayor Gunselman,
Here.
Council Member Feist, absent. Council Member Reardon, absent. We have quorum.
Will you all please stand and join me for the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At this time, I'm going to open the public forum. The public is permitted to address the City Council on items not appearing on the agenda. Comments may not exceed 5 minutes. In accordance with state law, however, no action or discussion may take place on any item not appearing on the posted agenda. The City Council may respond to statements made or questions asked, or may request staff to report back at a future meeting on the matter. Would anyone care to address the council on an item not on tonight's agenda? Let's bring it. Oh, about that.
Okay. Hello, I'm Cindy Edwards. And to start with, you need to know there were 22 people in this room exercising this morning for the senior fitness. So it's wonderful that we have this building. I'm not driving anymore. I am continuing to give back to the community. I tutor for the county. I'm not speaking in the microphone.
I think
I volunteer at the Monteverde Museum and at a thrift store in Jackson. And so I'm out rolling along in the street. And you need to know that when I'm in my wheelchair, and if I hit a crack or a bump, a bad hole, the little wheels stop and they throw me out of the wheelchair. So my knees are both skinned up now. So I haven't broken anything, but I just think about my mobility. I think about if children want to ride their bikes or skateboard. And I don't envy your position making the money stretch. They're old streets. The water level is very shallow and it's a lot that you have to conquer. But I just wanted to let you know it's not just a matter of people having to replace tires on their vehicles. It's also a part of my mobility and my health because I literally get thrown onto the ground and I am able to crawl back up into my chair, but not without being watched a lot. So just wanted you to know that it doesn't just affect cars, it affects lots of people. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Cindy.
What Cindy's talking about is ADA, correct?
Well, don't be ADA,
Okay,
like the
But-
sidewalks, but streets.
right. The streets need to happen. That's my deal. My name's Kenny New. I was recently hired by the ACTC and as a consultant. all the cities got together. We just bought a paving machine, a roller, a tack pot, all this stuff to start paving. That's my expertise. So that's what we are, what happened was we got the okay, we bought a paver through the county. Everything necessary to pave for the 5 cities in Amador County, which affects you. So we're going to start to finish the roads. I don't know if y'all know that, but I want to thank you if you do know that we're going to start to fix all of the cities, all of the roads, everything in the county. So for you, people in wheelchairs, people just walking, we're here. So we're going to start doing this. And I just want to let you guys know that it's all coming down. So your concerns, keep saying what your concerns are, because it's going to go through these people and get to the county, and we're going to fix it. Okay? It hasn't been done here. Okay,
Yeah,
right.
Randolph Street's horrible, and
Yeah.
we're well.
They
aware.
all are. So all of you people here with Sutter Creek, I'm the guy.
Great.
Okay, I'm doing all the assessments of the roads and all that. I came up here, I made it my mission to get this going. Okay, so that's me. I've been working with Jeff Chrisman, with the county, John Gedney with ACTC. So all this is gonna happen. So I just want to let you guys know, I live here. I'm at your disposal. I live right at 19 Main Street. You guys call me and we'll get it going, okay? So it's up to you to tell us what needs to be done in Sutter Creek for people like her. Because we never pay attention to wheelchairs and all the stuff. It needs to be done. So that's my mission as coming up here. So anyway, I'm the guy. Let me know. I'm here to help. And we'll get it done. All right? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. This was news to me. Maybe,
Yeah.
was anybody else aware that the county or ACTC had
No.
was going to get a paving machine?
All that stuff we need to do today. County's gonna start paying. City can talk to them, you guys can give them your, I don't know how they're gonna do it, maybe your 5 worst streets if you wanna get done. So that money we get from Caltrans and the state, start fixing everything, because if we don't, we're gonna be driving on gravel.
Great.
And nobody can get left.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody, mayor, council, staff. My name is Valerie Spake. I'm with Senator Marie Alvarado Gill's office. I'm happy to be here. If this jacket looks familiar, I got it at the Sutter Creek store the other week. We were doing a mobile office hour in Amador City. And just to do a little housekeeping, if anyone needs help with any state agencies or any issues, please call our office. I do handle some of the larger cases. The next mobile office hour we are going to be having will be in Jackson on March 24th at the Amador County Board of Supervisors Chamber. It's between 12 and 2. So we try to make ourselves available to individuals. The senator likes us to go to the Board of Supervisors meetings, city council meetings when we can, report out, talk about legislation. And that leads me to just talk about a couple of the bills that she has introduced that I thought you might be interested in. And hopefully in the future, I can come back and report out on other things that are happening on the state level. She is going to be authoring Senate Bill 1084. This is called the Fire Safe Home Tax Credit Act. It's basically a wildfire resilience program. This measure will create a targeted tax credit, allowing residents to recover 50% of out-of-pocket costs for key fire prevention improvements and up to $10,000 annually for home hardening and 2,500 for defensible space vegetation management, making protections a little bit more attainable for families in high-risk areas. She does represent a lot of rural counties throughout California, 13 in total. So it's one of the largest districts, and it goes up to Truckee, down over to Stanislaus, down to Inyo County. The next bill I wanted to talk about tonight is SB 1118. It's a generator and backup power tax credit. And this one is also going to help wildfire risk areas prepare for power outages by making backup power more affordable. It provides a tax credit covering 50% of the cost of purchasing a backup electricity generator or solar battery for use in designated Tier 3 wildfire zones. So this credit is going to be capped at $5,000 for generators, $7,500 for solar batteries per property, and applies in years when funding is approved by the legislature. So those are just a couple things. There's a lot more bills to talk about. I don't want to take everybody's time, but I wanted to say hello, give out my card, let you know that I'm available and accessible, and give a call. And thanks for everything that you're doing for the residents of Sutter Creek.
Valerie, what was the time for that March 24th?
That one is
Just
going to be March
March
24th from 12 to 2 at the Amador County Administrative Office. If you know people that need help with anything, state agency, don't hesitate to send them, or if any of you would like to come and say hello, please, please do so. Thank you. Valerie?
Hi, y'all. Pete Jensen, 23 Nickerson, resident of Sutter Creek for probably 37 years. I have two things I'd like to talk about. Number one is between Main Street on Nickerson and Elm, I have called the city manager, I've called his assistants many times over the last year that we have a high pressure water leak going on. And if you look at the street is dipped like this. And during the winter, during the summer, there's a water puddle there. So it's not from sewerage, it's from high pressure. It's from Amador Water Agency. And I've called you, left messages. Why didn't you call Amador Water Agency and get this addressed? Still there. It needs to be taken care of. And so that's kind of towards you. It's right down the street from you. You'll see that big dip. What's going to happen eventually is it's going to be a crater. The street is going to collapse. The ground is getting moist. That's just what it is. That's number one. It'd be nice when some of us citizens call City Hall that we get a response. Second thing is the marijuana deal, okay? Yeah, I'm a marijuana smoker. Go over to San Andreas, buy my marijuana there. Talk to the people over there. They make approximately 10 deliveries a night to this town of Sutter Creek. How much tax money are we losing? Thank you.
I just wanted to ask a question. Laura Damiani from Sutter Creek residents and business owner. One comment regarding the roads is they did do some repairs on the water agency, and it's effectively eroded and destroyed the asphalt in front of our house. And nobody's responded to that, but the road has eroded. It's eroded toward the middle, and it's a highly walked area. They make this loop, I think, around Spanish Street and stuff, so we have a lot of tourists come in. So what I wanted to know, along with what this gentleman on Main Street brought up about the roads, we have now the equipment, but then you do need the materials. I didn't hear that addressed. But when I looked at the last, just in January, the budget and the meetings, it said there would be a commitment of one road a year. So my thing is, what is one road? And are we talking about side streets? Because a lot of the side streets are really not just wheelchairs. Walking myself, I've slightly twisted my ankle in the past because of potholes. You really have to watch in certain areas your feet. Otherwise, I find it an issue. But I was wondering what are the priorities? Do we have the money to buy the materials now that we know the equipment? And I don't know if now is the time to address it, but it would be nice to have that brought up. And then my concern about the one road a year issue, probably because of our budget limitations, and how are those priorities made of the one road a year that gets repaired? Thank you.
What was your address?
We're on 60 Elm Street, the corner of Nickerson and Elm, the same stretch of road that Mr. Jensen was speaking about.
Thank you.
No. Hi, I'm Charlotte Griswold. I live here in Sutter Creek. I've been a resident for a little over 30 years. I too have a road concern. I've called the city office several times and asked to have just right up this road right here, there is like a car size, pothole that everybody has to drive around to avoid so that you don't throw your front end out in your car. And the lady that I work with, 81 years old, she just hit it the other day and popped her tire from it. And I don't get any calls back or anything to say that it was fixed or going to be fixed or anything like that. So
Are you talking about Greenstone Terrace? What's?
this road right here,
Sutter
this
Creek,
road going
Sutter
up
Vol-
to
Church Street.
Sutter Creek Volcano Church turns into Sutter Creek Volcano Road. It's right past the stop signs, probably, I don't know, 200 feet. Yeah, yeah, right up from your house, exactly. And then I too, we don't hear anything about where the dispensary is being proposed to go in or what the details of that are. So we would like to know, when that is being talked about or in the notes or anything like that. Can anybody say when we'll know anything about that?
I'll give a brief update, I guess, when we get to my comments.
There's not been an application yet. We just did kind of a pre-screening at the meeting before to let people know it's coming. So
Oh, it is coming. You're saying it is coming?
an application would be
Application
coming.
is coming.
Yeah, so that'll all be public.
So is there a proposed spot for that?
That'll all be public as soon as we see it.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Hello, my name is Pam Woolsey. I actually am a seventh generation of Amador County, and my grandparents actually lived in Sutter Creek for about 70 years. And I love Sutter Creek. It is my heart and soul. And there's a couple of things in the town that concern me. And I would like to bring it to you guys' attention. I'm sure you guys have heard a couple of these things, and I don't know where they're at in your agenda, if in your agenda at all. One is the Sutter Hill, Robert Schell's place. It is a pigsty. I mean, I don't know another word to even use. I'm sure this place has got city codes, and he should not have the junk that he has around. It makes our town look horrible. That's one concern I have. Another concern that I have is I hear there's going to be a Section 8 for homeless right in the stoplight going up into Sutter Hill. So I don't know, is that on your agenda? Is that approved? Can anybody give more information on that?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch what did you say?
I heard there was a Section 8 for a homeless housing unit going to be at Sutter Hill.
Yeah,
Talk about the-
I can touch on this when I get to my city manager comments. That's all right.
He's going to talk about it in his city manager's report, right?
Okay, so that's another concern that I have. I also have another concern about the dispensary coming in, if it does come in. I think Sutter Creek has worked very, very, very hard for many, many years to get Sutter Creek a fabulous little town. I think we are in the top 5 for Northern California. I want it to stay that way. I want to see revenue come into this place, but not at the expense of that. We can find better ways. And I think we just need to work harder to find better ways. And so that's going to be a big concern, but I would love it if you guys can keep it in the back of your mind that Sutter Creek is a golden gem. And I would really appreciate it if everybody could just work to keep it that way. Thank you.
Anyone else care to address the council on an item not on tonight's agenda? Nope. Okay, did you want to do there's a small change to the agenda. We do have a presentation tonight from Amador Child Care Council. Did you want to do your city manager's report first to maybe answer some of these questions?
Yeah, I think with all the questions, it's probably a good idea. First of all, thanks everybody for coming out. It's good to see people here at the meeting. You can make that full screen. So each council meeting, we give a city manager's update based on the city's priorities. But given all the comments, just a few quick things. So Pete, very sorry I never got your message, but I will look into the water issue. And I also kind of curious where your message went. So got to figure that one out. The one road a year. So that's kind of one major road. It is based on our budget. So we're planning on Sutter Hill Road this year. Just needs some work. And we're trying to look at what we can do with the trees at the same time we repave that. I think Claire answered the question about the dispensary. It was an informational meeting. We have no application at this point. Once we do, we'll share it with the public. I know that they are talking about a location up in the Sutter Hill area, but they have not said where yet. So when we know, everybody will know. And as part of their process, they've said they're going to hold multiple community open houses. So I think they'll also be reaching out, scheduling meetings. We do have the Valley View project, which is affordable housing project that was approved a couple of years ago. So it's moving into construction. It's right across from ACTC. It's a combination of low income housing and what's called transitional housing. And again, that's just a project that's been in process for a couple of years. So they're working on getting their building permits at this point.
Could you point out that by state law, any piece of property that's zoned for high density, an applicant has a right by use or a use by right to that.
Yeah, we had
and the city cannot
right.
say, no, you can't do that.
Right. Yeah. Councilmember Swift
Even though-
is correct. We had very little discretion on that project. And then finally, code enforcement is one of our priorities this year. The property you mentioned is high on our list. And so we're in the process of working on that. So some of our other priorities.
Tom, back before you, back to the questions, Laura's comment about in front of her house, the erosion from the water agency. Is that on Elm Street? Did they do work there too? Sure, yeah. I know they did a bunch of work in town and it caused some issues. I wasn't aware they did it there.
Nicholson, the downtown, Elm Street had to be repaved. Okay, but they didn't pay because of the heavy equipment damage. That's one of the reasons why that street was paved. But they didn't pay Nicholson So the equipment was parked down in the parking lot, so they had to come up Nickerson to go down Elm. So Elm should have been paid too. You can see where
Nickerson
the
should have been
heavy-
paid.
See where the heavy back are in the road. I'm retired from tires. I know a little about this stuff. And it's one of the three of them. And that somehow, whoever was running the city, let them get away.
So I got a little bit on that coming up in a second. Well, so again, just talk about wastewater for a second. So I was at a rural infrastructure conference last Wednesday. Met a lot of people in terms of potential funding from both federal and state levels. We also had our first water operational meeting with ION and CDCR. We've been meeting regularly the last couple of years. We're talking to each other, which is good. It wasn't always the case. And so we're getting ready for the disposal season as it starts to heat up here. And then we also had a good meeting on planning for our new wastewater plant. We are seeing elements in our wastewater that are higher than normal for a residential community. So we're trying to identify where those come from. We had been looking, mostly at Ramco, but we think now that we probably need to broaden it. So a lot of Martell comes through our sewer plant. And, not saying these companies listed are the issue. These are the ones we're going to go look at and see if we can figure out what's going on. So Sweet Pea, animal control and the other animal shelters use very strong disinfectants that could be a problem. I also need to get some details on the Tanner water plant, what they're doing with their backwash there. And finally, Amador High School. And then on the economic development front, I had a really good meeting today with the president of Columbia College. They're really looking at potential satellite campus locations, and I'm encouraging them to really look at Amador, which they seem predisposed to do. So there's a lot of discussions happening around that. We also have a graduate team from USC that is it's part of a business school challenge. They're working on a strategy for economic development for Sutter Creek. They're going to be done at the end of April, so we'll see what they come up with. It's basically free help. And then I'm continuing to investigate the ability to provide a crew car at the airport, which would let pilots that fly in be able to get from the airport into Sutter Creek. So a lot of airports have these cars that you can use for 2 hours. You got to bring it back, fill it up with gas, leave it at the airport. So it's something we're investigating just to kind of help some of the businesses downtown. Yep. So on code enforcement, I mentioned the last council meeting that our current code enforcement contractor is kind of winding down his time. So we're doing some handoffs, and we're going to be ramping up a new code enforcement person.
Can you explain what you mean specifically by the handoff from the current enforcement?
We're going out meeting with like the current people. So Pam and I are going to go out with Larry, and basically Larry is winding down his time. So that's the handoff. And
So can you what are we handing off from and handing off to?
we're just telling these people, they're going to be working with us, and, Larry's not going to be going out there anymore. Again, the Bryson bathroom is on track, and I'll be sending out an email to council to get a ribbon cutting date on the calendar. So the AWA work on the streets, they actually halted it for a couple of days. They had real quality concerns with the contractor they were using, and performance concerns. So there's a lot of discussion going on right now about what's been happening on the roads. I have a commitment from AWA that they will complete the work, and they want to do it at high quality. This is taxpayer money. Again, I appreciate the feedback, and and our director of public works is also here, so he's hearing all of this. We'll circle around and make sure that stuff gets taken care of. It's
even down to the main street, and they said it wasn't their responsibility.
Yep.
You should know that.
Okay, thank you. And then we are continuing to talk to Amador City about potentially offering them police services. There's a discussion actually tomorrow. And then there's some pictures here of some trees that were planted down by the parking lot, down by the post office. And then in terms of upcoming community events, we're starting to hit a busier season. It's kind of slow last month. You guys can see the upcoming events with the duck race April 25th. And then on your upcoming agendas, so the next meeting in March, we are going to review the budget expenses. We also have to do an annual report to Housing and Community Development at the state. So that'll be coming to you guys, as well as the second round for our impact fees and our master fee schedule. And then a discussion about a possible tree protection ordinance. And then in April, really start getting into budgeting season. We'll look at our long-range financial forecast. We may or may not have a recommendation on the contract, Amador City. And then we'll have hopefully a code enforcement update for you guys at that time. And then depending where our discussions lead, maybe April, maybe May, when we actually get draft ordinances on short-term rental and the tree ordinance. And that's the end of my update.
The draft ordinance for the short-term rental will come to us before it becomes a proposed ordinance and goes to the planning commission, or
It'll
will
go to
the
planning
draft go to the
commission.
planning
It'll
commission?
go to planning commission. So it's probably going to be later. I was a little aggressive.
Okay, thanks. Any more questions for Tom?
You mentioned we have not received an application from Embark, correct?
Correct.
Can they submit an application before our ordinance is, if our ordinance, would our ordinance have to be changed before they could put in an application?
I think it would happen at the same time. Like, it would be a development agreement that would require changes to ordinances.
Okay, thank you.
I'd like clarification. Claire made the statement that an application is actually coming from Embark. Do we know that for sure?
I mean, they said
We're
at the
not
meeting,
accepting applications though, right?
they said at the meeting that
Just-
they intended to submit one.
Okay.
So we just nothing's happened since the last meeting.
Okay,
So.
yeah, not to put you on the spot, I just want to make sure that we had the
Um,
timelines right.
Pam, a couple meetings ago, some of the concerns about the water agency are from the work that was done. But we had asked if we could put on our website the contacts for the water agency directly. If there's a leak or something somebody identifies, obviously we want to know too what's going on in our city, but that could be helpful.
We'll put that in this, Mayor.
Okay, we have a presentation tonight. Jenny DeWalt from Amador Child Care Council.
Good evening, Sutter Creek City Council. I am Jenny DeWalt. I am the Amador Child Care Council Coordinator. I also am the Director of Child Development for Amador County Office of Education. And so I'm here today just to give you a little bit of an update on what Amador Child Care Council is and the work that we have been doing. So next slide. The Amador the one right before that. Perfect. The Amador Child Care Council is something that works just like a board, like you guys. They're all members that have to be, they're actually voted on within the council and then approved by the Board of Supervisors and the Amador County Superintendent of Schools. And so these are our current members. Our chairperson is Erica Miller. Amy Brazil is our vice chair, and Karen Frazier is our secretary. And then we have some additional council members. We do have a few vacancies that we are trying to fill. Next slide. The Amador Child Care Council is made up of community members, child care providers, child care consumers, and people who are just interested in child care. And the whole purpose of the council is to support the development of affordable, accessible, quality childcare that promotes success of all children, their families, and the economy in our communities. One of the things that we definitely learned during COVID is the underappreciated importance of childcare. It became a huge glaring hurdle that a lot of families had when childcare wasn't available, but people still had to go to work. And so one of the big things that we look at is also the cost of childcare, and then just how difficult it is to find childcare for a lot of our families. Next slide. For just a little bit of history, in 1990, the federal government recognized that childcare was very important, but that there were a lot of challenges in local communities to match up need with availability, and then a lot of disconnect in communities on how to really advocate and help support building childcare systems. And so the federal government tasked each state with kind of building these local child care planning councils. So in 1991, the state of California tasked each county office of education, so 58 counties, with the with this goal of building these child care councils to in all 58 counties. It has the same kind of focus of providing affordable quality childcare. Our current childcare council is called the Amador County Child Care Council. Next slide. Every 5 years, each council is tasked with doing a needs assessment to really look at what childcare looks like in each community. And so here is just a few highlights. Each year, our county, we have about 300 babies born to our families, whether that looks a little different because some of them are born out of county, but generally we have about 300 infants born to our family residents every year. The number of 0 to 5 children, 0 to 5 in families who receive public assistance. There's things like CalFresh and those kind of subsidies, but we also provide child care subsidy. So 0 to 5, it's 938 families. So a lot of our families do need some extra TLC in providing childcare. And then you can see some other statistics. We have 2 Head Start programs in our county. One is in Jackson and one is in Ione. They provide early Head Start as well as Head Start preschool. And then our California State Preschool Program has 4 sites in our county. Those are in Ione, Jackson, Pioneer, and Plymouth. And so you can kind of see the number of our students that we serve across the county. TK stands for Transitional Kindergarten. This is the first year that TK is fully implemented in the state of California. And currently, well, at the beginning of the school year, we had 122 TKers enrolled across 6 school sites. There's a little bit of additional information on how many students are served, infants and toddlers who receive special education services in the county, and then the number of students or children, infants and toddlers, and then preschool age students who are under Child Protective Services in some capacity. So we use this information to help prioritize our work to support families and childcare providers. So next slide. So along with the needs assessment, every 5 years, the Child Care Council develops a comprehensive countywide child care plan. This was just completed last year, so we're kind of in year 1.5 of a 5-year cycle with 3 main goals. Next slide. The first goal that we really look at is going back to helping provide access, affordability, and facility development. One of the things that really comes up is in each city, all of your ordinances oftentimes have rules specifically around childcare. I know in this area, there's, and um, I cannot quote all the ordinances, but I know that there's rules around how close childcare settings can be to airports, and it's a very wide area, and so it really limits in some of our communities even the ability to put childcare facilities in some of our communities. But we work really hard to help people who are interested in jumping into the childcare field to support our communities. Next slide. It's really, this one is strengthening employer support for working families. And so we are in the process of building a toolkit that will be on our Amateur Child Care Council website that is information for employers to be a little bit more family friendly, and then also having resources that employers can share with their employees to help support just the workforce in general. And then the last one is really supporting our early learning field. So everybody who works with our youngest students. There's a lot of big shifts happening in education and childcare in general. A lot of our credentialing is changing to really increase the requirements for childcare and preschool, especially preschool teachers. They will soon have the same requirements as even somebody who teaches TK, but we don't pay them the same way. So preschool teachers a lot of times are not considered credentialed teachers, but a lot of the credentialing requirements now include language around preschool through 3rd grade. And so a lot of the work that Child Care Council does is advocacy work and really promoting the struggles of our workforce. We do work on getting different grants that we help provide stipends and those kind of things to help offset the cost of education. But it is definitely a underrepresented group a lot of times, and they're the ones tasked with our youngest members of society. And so it's a really big deal. So I appreciate the opportunity to come and share a little bit today. If the council has any questions about Child Care Council, I'd be happy to answer them. Ms. Sierk.
Thank you, Jenny DeWalt, former student. I'm curious because that's the role that I had prior to retiring, is what you're doing, and thank you for carrying on. My question is, there's the waiting list is large enough to hold a whole nother class size, according to the numbers you had up there. Is there been any more movement or interest or investigating having a site here in Sutter Creek?
Some of the biggest hurdles we have is just space at a lot of our elementary schools. Sutter Creek is definitely, your primary campus here is definitely one that's impacted by space. Currently, every year, the county office applies to have a contract with the state to provide California State Preschool. One of the challenges the state has had is providing those extra seats, as they like to call it, has been really limited. And so it's not just us having the ability to add another class, it's also having enough spots that the state can then add a whole nother class to our contract is part of the challenge that we have. We, a lot of the families in Sutter Creek actually get served at our Plymouth site. Some of them come to Jackson. But one of the things that we've noticed the last couple of years is now that transitional kindergarten is fully implemented, a lot of families just end up going to TK
TK.
instead of preschool. TK is meant to be truly universal, pre-kindergarten for all students in California. It is considered truly a second year of kindergarten or a pre-year of kindergarten. And it serves students who are 4 years old. As of this school year, we do serve an entire year of 4-year-olds. So we have many times over the years looked at expanding to a 5th state preschool class. The hard part right now is that as TK has expanded, the enrollment for state preschool across the state of California has
Has gone.
declined. Any other questions? Well, thank you, council, once again for letting me
Oh,
speak.
Jenny, I did have one, it's not really a question, but maybe a follow-up. We had a resident here maybe 3 or 4 years ago that had a property he wanted to rent to a daycare and ran into the issue with the airport space. And he pursued it for a while, I believe with the county. And I'm not really sure where that went, but he thought there was some leeway. So I can call him and see where it was left and give you that information.
That would be great. And I know my understanding is I think Star Preschool, which is here in Sutter Creek, faced that challenge quite a bit when I think they were trying to find a location. But that I think it just kind of does highlight how important city councils are, even in something that you wouldn't expect with childcare. But decisions that are made really do impact
Families.
even our youngest citizens. So thank you, guys.
Thanks, Jenny.
Did anyone in the public have a question for Jenny? Thanks, Jenny, for taking time to inform us. Next on the agenda is the approval of minutes from February 2nd.
I have a request on the minutes. It's under the administrative agenda. City manager article, let me find it. It's item number 5. Wastewater. I'll find it. Hold on. It's regarding the requirement of the change of our city ordinance regarding the dispensary. And there's a comment that says that would be a narrow impact in terms of the change in the ordinance. And I find the word narrow is an opinion word and not necessarily a factual word that the rest of the report addresses. So it's city manager Boyes highlighted following regarding development agreement pilot project. There would be narrow changes to the city current ordinances. I think there would be significant changes.
That's probably a word I used, and I think the
Yeah.
clerk was just capturing what I
Okay.
said in the
I-
minutes.
Again, then, as opinion for the minutes, I would like to have it struck.
May I suggest just some changes or?
Yes, or just
Yeah,
would
I
be
mean,
changes.
I'm happy to
Would be
strike it,
changes.
but again, the minutes just capture what was said. I probably said it, so, but we can take it out.
That's all I have.
On the page 8, halfway down, the motion, Pam, the total motion carried is correct, but you've got no's on there from the item before. If that's it, I'd hear a motion to
I'll make-
approve.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as amended.
I second.
Okay. Pam?
Councilmember Swift,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Cirque,
Aye.
Mayor Gunselman,
Aye.
Councilmember Feist, absent, Councilmember Reardon, absent.
Okay, on the consent agenda, we have the dissolution of ACRA items. We can just approve that on consent unless either of you wanted to pull it.
I read through them, and they're in agreement with what we discussed at our last ACRA meeting. And I think they're consistent with where we've been heading, especially with the Amador Community Foundation, the bingo resolution. So I move that we accept the ACRA dissolution.
Jim, did you have any questions before we?
Sorry?
No. If that's a motion, I'll second it.
I just had a comment as we, I know the city staff and other people in the community are starting to cobble together some things to fill some of the gaps that ACRA left. And I just hope we can find a way to communicate with the other cities and other individuals and people in the county that might be trying to do the same thing to make sure we get the best impact and work together. So I was kind of thinking, Tom, I don't know if the city managers are still meeting sometimes, but maybe that can be brought up and share ideas and see who's covering what bases.
I think also the understanding when we discussed this dissolution, is that in the county takeover of the program, they would also serve as the primary source for scheduling, reporting activities, creating master calendar. Bradley, you were here. If that is consistent with what you understood as well. By here's, yes. So the county was supposed to take on or agreed to take on the responsibility or the job of kind of coordinating community events. I don't know if they are at that stage of organization yet. I don't think so.
Well, in the meantime, we've
agree.
got a couple of
Yes.
things
Yeah, no,
going
I
and
absolutely agree.
we could work with the other cities and
Yeah.
make sure we're not duplicating efforts.
Absolutely.
In that case, there's a motion and a second. Pam?
Vice Mayor Cirque,
Yes?
Councilmember Swift, Mayor Gunselman,
Aye.
Councilmember Reardon, absent, Councilmember Feist, absent.
Okay, for ordinances and public hearing, the first item, item A, is to continue the moratorium on short-term rentals another 10 months and 15 days. This is not the short-term rental discussion that's coming up in the agenda a little bit later. This is just to keep in place the mechanism that we put to pause new applications until we have a short-term rental ordinance adopted. So is there a staff report, Tom, or did you just want me to?
I think the city attorney has this one.
Okay.
I'll be very brief. The staff report explains tonight's action, but we have public here. So we have a moratorium on the acceptance and processing and approval of new short-term rentals. The purpose of the moratorium, as I explained in a previous meeting, is just to give us space. It's not a permanent thing. It can be extended for up to 2 years. By law, the initial adoption of the moratorium can only be for 45 days. So you're coming up on that very shortly. What we are proposing to do tonight is extend to the first anniversary of the moratorium. The moratorium was imposed on January 20th. So tonight, if you approve the proposed ordinance, you would be extending that. The problem is, as I'm now looking at us, we only have 3 council members. So we, by law, we can't do this. Let me just double check. I'm just realizing we only have 3 council
I think
members.
you need,
That was a 4/5 requirement.
Well, it's 4/5. I mean, if all three, let me just. Sorry, let me just look at this. I'm sitting at. It's a 4/5 vote of the legislative body. And the legislative body is 5 of you. So unfortunately, we can't take action tonight because there's no way. So what we can do is we can just reimpose. We can start the 45-day. We could start over. I can schedule that for your next meeting. That is lawful, because we would just essentially be reimposing
for a new 45 day.
we'd start over. But as I was giving my staff report, it finally dawned on me, and I apologize that I'm looking at 3 of you and we don't have. So
The 45 days expires before our next.
yeah, the
meeting.
45 days expires January 39 on the 6th of March. So on Friday, I mean, we could have a special meeting to extend, if we can get a meeting together by Friday. That would be another option. So I'll work with staff, but as I'm sitting here tonight, there's no way we can pass this. So what we can ask is, do you want to explore a special meeting before Friday? Or if not, I could just we could just start the process all over at our next meeting.
And that would mean between now and between
Between the
Friday
5th.
and the next meeting, we could accept
Well,
applications under the.
yeah, if someone, okay, so the next meeting is March 16th. If someone came in and submitted an application, we could just tell them, look, we can accept this today, literally, but we can stop the processing in its tracks by adopting a new moratorium.
On the.
So so essentially they would be on hold if you adopt the moratorium, if you start over on the 16th.
If we had a special meeting, don't we have to have public notice with certain?
You could continue on the record tonight. You'd have to take a vote, but we'd have to set it tonight, and we don't even, 2 of our members aren't here, and I don't know if, I don't know if.
I think we should probably just start it over.
I think
Yeah,
starting
so
over makes.
Yeah, so what I will do is I will just bring the ordinance back to you on the 16th. We'll reintroduce it. And unfortunately, that's the best way to go.
Yes. I think the odds of getting an application in that window, that 10-day window.
We'll open it up to the public after the council finishes discussing. On this item. There's a process in the meeting, so there's a staff report. We ask questions. I will open it to the public before we have a vote.
If during that, I doubt if you get an application during that 10-day window, but how can you just tell the applicant, well, it's not going to get processed? That's the same thing as having a moratorium, so.
Yeah, as a practical matter, if someone, the ordinance is in effect till Friday, we would, so basically they'd have the next week, and then we would, and Monday, because we meet, at 6 p.m. on Monday, so they'd have essentially 6 business days to come in. The reality is when someone comes in and brings something, our staff doesn't, that day, I mean, we might stamp it that it was received. So there's a stamp of when it came in, but as a practical matter, Aaron, our planner and myself and Tom, we're not going to have a chance to even look at it. So, but I do want to just read. So just for the sake of the record, there's a government code section. So the planning and zoning statutes are in something called the planning and zoning law. And I'm getting super wonky here, but they appear in what's called the government code, which there are, tens of thousands of government codes that affect all levels of government in California. The planning and zoning law is in the 60,000s. So that tells you the late 60,000s. And the code section is Government Code 65858. And what it says is that the urgency measure shall, and I'm reading, shall require a 4/5 vote of, and this is the key, of the legislative body. And
Not of a quorum.
not of a
4/5.
quorum.
of a
And that,
quorum.
and there's
That's the
actually court
difference.
cases that deal with this. We deal with this in municipal law. When we have supermajority requirements, there's a problem when all you have is a quorum, because 3 of you can act as a quorum and 3 of you can pass regular items. But because of the language, 4/5 vote,
Of the
quote,
body.
of the legislative body, that means on its face, and as courts have explained, the entire legislative body, meaning all 5 of you. And again, this is considered an urgency ordinance, so you're dispensing with all of your regular procedures, which require notice and other things. And so the idea is that built into the safeguards that our law provides for urgency measures is that it's going to be more than just 2 out of 3 of you, that it's going to be a super majority, that it's going to be at least 4. And so I'm just telling you, the way courts have interpreted this language, we cannot act tonight.
Can we act on either one of the items on tonight's
Yeah,
agenda?
The item tonight, the next item, and I can cover this then, but since it's teed up now, you're just giving direction to staff on what you want to see. So we will be taking that and then we will be formally introducing a permanent ordinance at an upcoming meeting. So you can give direction because you're not going to be voting and you're not going to be enacting anything tonight when you get to that item.
All right, thank you.
Well, and just to be clear, we already have established a process with the staff that if somebody comes in while we're doing all of this, we're going to encourage them to hang on to their application, weigh in on the process and be a part of it. And we could still do that for the next 2 weeks.
I would disagree. In my opinion, if an application comes in and you stamp it that day and there's no moratorium, it should be processed.
But it's going to take quite a while to process, and we're going to pause the process during that time. So
I don't see how you can.
I'll follow up with Derek and we'll,
I would just prefer, how hard is it to have a meeting for Friday, say? Friday,
the problem is going to make sure you can all make it. And
Yeah,
do we have to say when the meeting is today? Is that
We'd have to set it on the record tonight. So, and then I just need to double check.
Yeah,
Give me-
can you text Dan and Susan while we could probably do
let me
that.
just,
Take 10 minutes.
can we circle back?
Just as a heads up, I will be unavailable Thursday and Friday.
Never mind.
I'm just gonna, that may save.
is Wednesday at 5 or 6 viable?
Well, we'd only,
Yeah.
March 6th.
yeah, the odds of getting everybody on that
We
day.
need
Yeah.
4 of us.
I think we should just
Okay.
restart it. And we have to public notice it and everything.
No,
again?
we do not have to publicly notice because we're starting over.
Okay.
Oh, we didn't have
That
to notice the.
I'm sorry, I'm losing you guys. We don't have to public notice the moratorium
No,
or the
because it's
meeting.
only, it's essentially a reintroduction for the 45 days. So
Right.
if we adopt it on March 16th, you're basically you'd have to extend it at your second meeting in April if you want to do it at a regular meeting. So I will work with city clerk and city administrator to make sure because we have to notice we notice tonight. So when you extend it after the 45 days, there has to be a public hearing notice.
Okay.
And Pam, our clerk, did publicly notice this. So we will reschedule the reintroduction on the 16th. That will only be for 45 days. And then, as we can explain at that meeting, we would just schedule, I think, your second meeting in April for a public hearing to extend it. But I do want to emphasize the intent from our last meeting is for staff to be working on the permanent ordinance.
Yeah,
Mhm.
And you're going to talk about that
You
next.
should really say extend it if necessary.
If necessary. I mean, the only thing, Councilmember Swift, is the ordinance, the permanent ordinance has to first go to the planning commission and has to be publicly noticed when it's introduced. Then it has to come to council
So there
after a
is a
public hearing.
It will be necessary.
And then you have a 30-day waiting
Okay.
period. So even if we adopted something, I mean, the reality is we probably can't get to the planning commission till April.
Then it will be necessary. That's fine.
Okay, so we're going to go to item B, the Uniform Building Code adoption. Did you,
Be right back. But you go ahead. Just go ahead.
do you have a staff report on this?
Do you want me to present this? So this item is actually the introduction of the Uniform Building Code. And every 3 years, there is a readoption of all of the building codes. And there are numerous building codes. You know, as the lawyer, I understand the legal framework, but I don't understand, and I can barely hammer in a nail myself. So, but there's a building code, there's an electrical code, there's a plumbing code, there's a swimming pool code, there's property maintenance code. There are just a whole host of codes. There is a group called there's a national group, and there's a uniform building code. But then we have the California Building Standards Commission, which takes the uniform building code and puts a California flavor on that. And they adopt the codes every 3 years. We are actually required to follow those codes. And that's what we are proposing to do, is to simply adopt the 2025 versions. We do make some findings. There are a few amendments to the code. Just as a quick summary, we cannot deviate, in other words, create our own standards, but we can adjust. As long as we meet the minimum standards, we can make adjustments for unique climate, unique geography, unique topography associated with our jurisdiction. And we've made a few of those. And the ones that are before you, we enacted at our last meeting. Unfortunately, I can't really explain the basis for those because that's really a technical thing. But I do want to note, and
Well,
I'm
example, there's one for the slope of the roof to deal
Yeah.
with snow.
in case there's snow. The procedure on this is a little bit wonky. So ordinarily, we introduce an ordinance and then we have a second reading. We're doing that here, but technically the second reading is what is publicly noticed. And our city clerk has, I believe, or will be publicly noticing the next meeting. But when you adopt uniform codes by reference, which is what we're doing, the second meeting has to be a public hearing. So tonight, really, you're simply introducing the ordinance, and all you are doing is what you already have to do, which is to adopt the uniform codes that our state has required every county and every city to follow. And so tonight, you're simply saying, we're going to follow the updated codes. We've worked this through with our building official who is in support. Our building official works with the county, and I believe may also work with Jackson. So, you know, it's not just us that's doing this. It's the county, it's the other cities in the county, and it's every county and every city throughout the state. So tonight, really, the recommendation is simply to introduce this ordinance. We do need 3 of you to do that. And then if you do that, then we get to consider it one more time at your next meeting. And then if you adopt it at your next meeting, then then effectively we will be following those codes, which technically we're already supposed to be following.
So really, it's just, as it's written, waiving the first reading.
Yes, that's it. And well, you're technically introducing it. You know, you have to introduce and then you have to enact. It's a little wonky, but yes.
Thanks, Derek.
So the public hearing will only be at the next meeting.
Technically, although we can open it up for public comment tonight, but the
Sure.
difference between tonight and the next meeting is that we have to newspaper notice the second meeting. That's the only difference. But, you know, people, if they're here tonight to speak on this, can absolutely do so.
We'll certainly give people a chance to speak on it. Since it's agendized as a public hearing, should I have the public comment open it like a public hearing?
Yes, we went a little above and beyond, and we're just going to effectively do 2 public hearings. So let's
Okay.
treat this as a public hearing.
Great. Okay. So we have the staff report. Did the council have any questions on these?
No.
Jim?
No.
Okay, then I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing for this item. The Uniform Building Code adoption. Anyone care to speak? No, I'm going to close the public hearing. I'll hear a motion.
I so move.
You're moving to,
Waive, I move to waive the first reading of the ordinance that we need to adopt. The building code. And introduce the ordinance.
I'll second.
Pam?
Vice Mayor Cirque,
Aye.
Councilmember Swift,
Aye.
Mayor Gunselman,
Aye.
Councilmember Reardon absent, Councilmember Feist absent.
Okay, that takes us to the administrative agenda. We're going to continue our conversation on parameters for short-term rentals. Aaron, are you going to kick us off?
Quick few comments. I mean, generally, you guys done a great job of having 5 council members here. We had 3 on the first discussion of this. And then again, because of personal family matters, we have 3 tonight, but it's a different 3. But again, we're trying to get through a discussion with you guys, give us enough parameters so we could draft an ordinance, which would then take to the planning commission and then back to you guys. So Aaron is picking up the continuation of our previous discussion.
Yes, thank you, Tom and City Council. So tonight in front of you is a revised staff report from our staff report a month ago, February 2nd. And what I did to kind of keep this conversation moving forward is I removed the areas of discussion that we had consensus on and then added notes where we still needed discussion and consensus to move forward. So I will just quickly go through that. The first one that we did not reach any consensus on was the location and density within the city of the short-term rentals. And Claire, I know you weren't at the last meeting. I'm assuming you
I watched it.
you watch it, so you understand kind of how we set our discussion up with these discussion points and kind of questions that need to be answered, of what staff thinks where we need direction to kind of move forward with drafting the ordinance. So with location and density, the discussion points were whether to establish different density limits for short-term rentals within the historic district versus outside. Pam, are you able to pull up the map? Sorry, we didn't have this queued up, but
I can do it.
as we talked about the last meeting, the majority of them are kind of concentrated through downtown area. So within our historic district, with all of our hotels and inns being down there. And then, the majority of the single family residences that are short-term rentals in that area. So the dark purple is our Main Street historic downtown, and then the light purple is our historic district, encompasses a lot of the city. If you can show the one with the units on it.
Hotels and inns?
Yep. I think. Oh, sorry, it's the last attachment.
Not this one.
No, not that one. So some of the benefits of having them more concentrated in the downtown is walkability. You know, we had hoped that those people weren't parking their cars on our main street and taking up the valuable parking that is there now. Also that there is a mix of commercial and residential in these downtown neighborhoods. So potential to have less impact because people are already living next to commercial type establishments. And also it could provide an opportunity for someone to stay in a historic home, and that's part of the charm of our city. Some of the drawbacks are some of the homes are closer together, impacts on the neighborhood residents. It would reduce long-term rental within our historic districts, and also we wouldn't want to see any of our historic buildings damaged by a high turnover. So Tom has pulled up the map of the units that are currently permitted within the city. So to start the discussion, again, whether to establish different density limits within the two districts, or if we wanted to divide the city up into more than just those two historic and non-historic areas. And then if we do have a density limit, how do we establish a wait list for people?
I'm, I'm, I'm in favor of the different densities because I think there's different needs and concerns for being in the historical district versus on the, just outside, but still within possibly walking distance within town. Is there any way that we can also address proximity between short-term rentals? Because if you're talking into the historical district, which is, dense properties side by side, can we go, as detailed as, okay, no adjacent properties could be short-term rentals? So if there's a short-term rental established, one right next door couldn't be approved.
I think
That might,
that is up to the council. And one of the things we did talk about last month was just we don't want to make it so complicated that it's really hard to enforce, that we're going out and counting this and that. But I mean, that's much easier than.
that's pretty easy if someone's next door to already
but
an
per
established.
block is the tougher one, or.
Yes.
So, yeah, so the question here was kind of how fine grained do you want to be? You have two areas, the historic or outside the historic, or do you split the city into 4 areas or 5 areas? Again, we feel with the part we took out, which we talked about last time, was thinking about different characteristics of the ordinance, including ease of enforcement is one of those, and cost. So, and then fairness, I think, was one of the other things too.
Yeah.
So if somebody gets one and neither one of their neighbors can do it, is that a fair process or not? That's something for you guys to think about.
Well, it sounds like we can't discuss any of these items without
I think.
all of them at the same time. Because if we have any parameters, then we're going to have to figure out how to determine how it's fair if, somebody in the next door or on the same block wants to apply. I listened to the discussion last time and it seemed like there was consensus that density is something we should be paying attention to. I can speak for myself. When I'm concerned about density, it's, the biggest concerns of short-term rentals in my mind is the impact on housing inventory and the effect on neighborhoods. And density is what would affect a neighborhood. So if there are 3 on a block, that could easily be 15% of your neighborhood, as opposed to, if we're putting a 2.5% cap on citywide. Obviously, sometimes that, it's not going to be 2.5 spread evenly and dispersed. I get that. But I do think it applies to all of the city because Patricia Lane or Bryson Drive is just as much of a neighborhood to the people that live there as Spanish Street is and Broad Street. So in my mind, it's not too terribly hard. I heard Dan say this in the last meeting. It just takes a compass and a measurement. And I do think that when we have any of these parameters, we're going to have to have some sort of buffer with when 1 or 2, because if we start this now and there's, if what we have now is permitted for 3 years, say, we're going to have to try to find some way to stagger it as different ones apply. But yes, I absolutely think density matters all around town. And if you split the town into 2, you can still have, 5 short-term rentals on a short 2-block neighborhood, which means, a large percentage of the people staying there are not your neighbors, they're transient, and that affects the neighborhood.
And that gets back to this question about the historic district where currently you can see these clusters. We already have clusters. And do you want those downtown because that's where you want people to walk and not have to park downtown? Or are you worried about density everywhere? So again, that's kind of the first question was. do you
I
want it-
think that those clusters are about the cap of how they could be clustered in my mind. I mean, that's about as much as a street or a block
Well, it's
or an
really,
immediate
I guess I'm
neighborhood
asking,
could
do you want to
contain.
treat the outer neighborhoods differently than the downtown area, where maybe you allow this density downtown?
I share with what Claire said, whether it's a neighborhood downtown on Main Street and up in the Nickerson Elm area, or it's up in, the other, you know, residential areas, there's still the neighborhoods. So I think density is important to consider for whatever and however many areas we have, because it does affect. I think the bigger effect on outside the historic area is on housing availability for people who want to be full-time residents. They have kids in the school, they want to put, they have the jobs, versus someone who's coming in to the historical district.
Also,
That,
So
that,
Mayor,
that makes.
Are you asking if I think that the density in town would be higher than?
yeah, but to go back, I think I had suggested, and it's up to you guys, that we might set like a time limit on this discussion, because I think, again, we'll probably have to come back when all 5 of you are here. so-
Sure, yeah, we could
Do you-
go a little bit further though. Can that slide go back up?
But do you want to go for like an hour until like 8:15 and then we'll move on?
Let's see if we're making progress.
Yeah.
I think some people probably have something to say here too. So I think that density about caps it off. When you're looking at, I can't see that far, but I looked at the map
So
before,
the
so-
numbers are hotels, but
Right,
they have a lot
okay.
of hotels. These are all Airbnbs.
So Badger Street, I think Broad Street, and what was the other one that already has 2 or 3 on one street?
Badger,
Eureka.
Broad. Go for flats have fallen off.
And so again, we tried to structure the question, so I feel like if we
Oh,
can
no. Greenstone Terrace.
be a little disciplined how we go through them. So we started talking about,
So your question,
say-
Aaron, was
Yeah, but-
density, should density constraints be throughout the city or just in
but I heard
downtown?
housing affordability, and we thought we had 20, we actually have like 14 active ones. So again, if you're talking about housing stock, what's your overall percentage?
Julia
Different
brought up
question.
housing
Yeah.
stock, but I think that that actually is affected by the total cap on STRs, not the density.
That's what
So
I'm
the first point that Erin brought up is about density. And I think her question was whether it should pertain to the whole city or differently downtown. And my answer is the whole city, because I think density affects neighborhoods. I think the total cap affects the housing inventory. And our neighborhoods are just as valuable to the people that live there, whether it's one of the showboat houses on Main Street or, a starter house somewhere else in town.
So do you want to take votes on each question so we get the counts again? Like last time, we were pretty clear on if there was a consensus or not a consensus.
I don't think so, because I think some of these people, we're not at a point where we'd vote now. Everyone will have a chance to speak. I just said that we need to hear from the public.
So maybe topic number 1, we don't vote on right now, we come back to.
Not to vote, but again, I know Claire's position. I'm not sure the other two. So again, it's as you talk through it, it'd be good to know we have a consensus, or it's still an open issue.
I think it's still an open issue. Again, without our other 2 council members here, I feel that their input has been valuable in the past and would like to see a discussion this evening, but I don't know if we're ready to make any the 3 of us, I don't feel comfortable making a final decision without the help and the input of
Nothing
the
would be
other 2.
final, but again, if you guys aren't even agreed, then it's clear it's still an open issue. If we don't have 3.
So I get that, but I don't think either of the 3 of us want to give our position on this point without hearing from the public either. So we could have them up. What I thought I saw from the last meeting was there were a couple of these questions that you didn't get to at all. So we could start the discussion on those. Maybe I misinterpreted that. Or we can let the folks that are here have a chance to speak on any of the decision points instead of just this first question that Aaron asked. That might be the best.
Yep, sounds good.
Just to be clear, I mean, the noticing for this would allow them to speak on any, while you may have your own focus tonight, anyone who's here can speak on any aspect.
Sure, of course. I just meant rather than opening it up about this first question of density and then having everyone sit down and then reopening it up when we talk about a cap and then having everyone sit
No,
down. I
you
think
should
it
do-
would be,
You should do one round of public comment. And if you want to, typically you ask questions and then we go to the public and then you have your discussion, but we kind of jumped into discussion. So it's up to you, Mayor, but if you want to go to the public, that's probably a good idea.
Jim or Julia, did you have any questions before we open it up to the public?
No.
Okay, would anyone care to take the microphone?
Hi, I'm Brian Combs, live in California Drive, Sutter Creek. Couple quick ones. Since you need to raise money instead of a dispensary, why don't you have a cap on these things and sell them at auction? You might raise some money that way. Okay, that's one. Two, I'm a strong advocate of no Airbnbs in residential R1, RE, and places like that. These are, there's not a lot of housing in Sutter Creek. And pulling it out of the market, means less people can live here and enjoy this beautiful city. And for example, I can't run a truck maintenance shop out of my garage up on California Drive. Why should I be able to run a hotel? I mean, those are restrictions that make sense. And then the other one I wanted to have about is if you get into like fines for non-compliance, I moved here from St. George, Utah, which has a whole bunch, it's a whole community of Airbnbs there. And people have Airbnbs say, the fines, it's the cost of doing business. Pound sand, I'll do what I want. That's a very common response for those. And that's all. Thank you.
Hi, Kenny New. I own one of the quote showboat houses on Main Street. We did have, I was at the last meeting when our neighbor wanted to do an Airbnb and everybody shut it down. At the time, y'all were talking about you had 20, I believe was the number of Airbnbs, and you kind of let that get away, and there's like 25 or 26.
No.
We have 14 active.
Okay, so 14 active. I think I lived in Santa Cruz for a number of years, and this got out of control there. It was really bad because they started doing it on every street, and they finally had to stop it because it got out of control. Okay, you guys have a great city here. We all take pride in our houses. You have the hotels here. Are they full every weekend? No. So I would think you'd have to kind of look at that from a standpoint of getting people here. But Airbnbs aren't all bad, but I think there should be just a very tight number on that for y'all. I've been in a situation where it got out of control and it was terrible. We all live here. We take pride in this town, and if there's anything in this town, it is the pride of a small town. So I'm just telling y'all, don't be a big city, this place, because it'll lose its luster in a heartbeat. You need to keep this small. I get the money. Just be careful with that, is what I got to tell you. What I'm telling you doesn't mean crap, but I'm telling you, I've lived through it. So if you guys put a cap, I don't care if it's downtown you know, on Main Street, off of Main Street, have a cap on it. And the people that have them already, well, they're lucky because they have them. If you want to give a few more away, maybe I could live with that. And I just have to say one other thing with the dispensary. We came from Santa Cruz years ago, and that place got inundated with dispensaries. I don't think we have the police force because they're going to be there a lot. We're already short-staffed.
We're
gonna make it
doing
more
the
staff.
short-term rental agenda item.
Okay. Just be careful what you do.
Pete Jensen again. I'm going to come from this from a totally different way. I wish the chief of police was here still. I live on Nickerson. Parking is terrible. Okay.
That was on cue. That was good.
He's a good guy. I live on Nickerson. Parking is terrible. Have a shop on Spanish Street. Parking is terrible. If we do the bed and breakfast deal, get one on Nickerson, what I'm going to do, and what I'm going to do is organize other people in town too, is I am going to be calling the chief of police and you guys constantly. If there's a registration out of date, if they're parked the wrong way, I'm going to be burning up the telephone to the police department. And I'm going to organize other people to do the same thing. It's going to cost a lot of money and it's going to take a lot of time. That's how you deal with this stuff.
Hello, I'm going to actually bring this to the attorney, and I'm wondering if he can answer this. With all the bed and breakfasts being in, I'm assuming, residential zoning, and I'm coming in as a realtor. If it is in a residential zoned area and the next door neighbor to me is wanting to sell their house and they are in a residential area, are you going to change the zoning of where bed and breakfast is if it is in an R1 zone? Because technically it can't stay residential if it is a bed and breakfast, correct?
Aaron, maybe.
Yeah. So with our current process right now, any house or room that is being used as a short-term rental in a residential zone requires a conditional use permit, which is non-transferable if that owner sells their house. But that is how we allow them. So our code allows for the planning commission to issue conditional use permits for uses that are not allowed by right in the zoning district. So that has been our process for the last few years.
I would also add that bed and breakfasts are different than short-term rental.
Yes.
Bed and breakfasts, we're not talking about, those are, so if that's what you're concerned about.
So would the zoning have to be changed at all, or is there a time frame that you give that to be a short term?
So currently our code, our short-term rental permits don't have an end date on them. They get their conditional use permit and then that allows them to operate a short-term rental out of their house, or a room in their house or an accessory building.
I just think you're going to have a lot of people that are going to be very, very concerned for resale values. And that's something that should be taken into consideration. Thank you.
To be clear though, we're here considering changing that current.
Yes, we
process.
are.
So I think
Whether
that we need to
there'll
take
be
that-
timeframes, whether the permit will be valid for 3 years only and then needs to be renewed. Because right now, you get your permit, you have it unless you have a violation. Then that is when the planning commission or the city would review those permits and prevent and possibly revoke them if needed. But yeah, but the discussion of the length is on the
term of use.
on the discussion tonight.
Hello, this is Laura Hardcastle again. I'm going to bring up a couple issues. One is on the short-term rentals, some of these houses, they get their guests And so a 3-bedroom house with their guests could be 20 people, 7 days a week with a noise ordinance to 10 o'clock. The noise ordinance for a business is only 9 o'clock. The other thing about the density downtown here is a lot of people are basically zero clearance houses. They don't even have garages. So even a conversation is heard. So I think that's an issue to look at. Like we have 4 short-term rentals right by our house. Property values also, if you have a historic home, yeah, it's charming, but let me tell you, a historic home could be worth 1 million. A few years ago, 1.2 million right over here. So I don't see that on Patricia, not to diss anybody, but the thing is people buy these homes, they want to maintain the value and they're not going to maintain the value. The other thing that I wanted to bring up is I noticed there was a proposal for the city staff to run the application process for the short-term rentals. That was brought up by city staff to the planning commissioner when I was a planning commissioner just about 4 months ago. It was a unanimous vote down. One thing, the vice chair of that committee said at the time, we already are short on funds, and therefore, why are we doing the predominant work and handing it over and having to pay city staff to do that work? The other thing that I have to say is to be a planning commissioner, I had to be a resident of Sutter Creek. It was very clearly obvious to me that the city staff are not city of Sutter Creek, or they might not all be city of Sutter Creek residents, and they have an agenda of looking towards tourism taxes and taxes. I'm for taxes too, because the roads need fixing and other infrastructure issues, which I think are pretty serious in our community as a resident and a business owner. So I think that we should really think, plus the city staff aren't the policy-making body, and being on the planning commission as well, I did find several errors that were through the work. So I think it's a better review process that if it's brought, hopefully they'll do their work because, it is a lot of work to be a planning commissioner if you're going to, more especially a city council person with the voluminous amounts of materials, to be well-informed to make the best policy for our residents. So I think that it's in the best interest to have the planning commissioner maintain that responsibility for more than one reason. They can always be appealed, like the home on Main Street was appealed. It was denied, but city staff stood up for it. They wanted it. They came back. Then they didn't have the right materials that really were the ordinance that we were presented, and other information was presented because they were all for overturning the planning commission's meeting. Once again, take this seriously. Thank you.
So we have several hotels and, my address, you need my address? No, Barbara Combs, Comnes. We have several hotels and bed and breakfasts that are, I believe, all in commercially zoned areas. And I wonder if you haven't already done so, if you should consider their vacancy rates. I don't know that we have a need for all these additional rentals, some short-term rentals, if we have a lot of vacancies. I don't really know that the answer to that question. I think it comes and goes in waves, perhaps. But I hope you are looking into that in making your decision about this.
Hi, Byron Damiani, live over on Nickerson and Elm. As my wife was pointing out, we already have 4 Airbnbs within 1 block of our house now. We're right on the edge of the Main Street Historic District. We're in the regular historic district, and they're already, if I go down to the end of the street, there are 3 of them there. Go up the other street, there's another one there. So literally within 1 block, we already have 4. And I haven't heard any justification at this meeting or any of the others on why we need more Airbnbs. The original motivation for getting the ordinance was basically to handle these as they were coming in, and you were getting close to a limit, wanted to know what to do once we hit the limit or what the limit should be. You can save a lot of work by just having the limit where it is right now. I mean, we're at 20 or 21. If you wanted to go to 25, something like that, that makes sense. But I wanted to hand out one point here.
Matt, back up.
And the staff report is proposing like a and instead of having a hard cap, having a percentage cap and saying 2.5% or 5% and 2.5% based on 1,404 residences. Well, that's a little misleading. What I just handed you was the table they're referring to out of the housing element. And 1,404 residential units includes apartments, mobile homes, multifamily housing, none of which are likely to be applying for Airbnb status. What we're looking at are single-family detached homes in the bowl in Sutter Creek. That's 804 homes. 2.5% of that were already there with the current number that we have. So I think that's something that needs to be looked at. I'm booking bands frequently into the Kyoto Inn, sometimes on the last minute basis where they have extra members come in. And unless there's a special event in town, I rarely have trouble getting a room there, let alone at the Airbnb, let alone at the bed and breakfast or at the Sutter Hotel. So again, what is the pressing need to have more Airbnbs? Has anyone looked at the vacancy status or what the rates are? Because it doesn't seem like that's really an issue. And I really strongly think that this needs to be a policy-driven decision, not an administrative decision. This is being proposed to being put on the level of getting a $45 sign permit. All of the homes in Sutter Creek, we don't have tract housing here. All of the homes are individual. All of the homes next to them are individual and unique. So each time someone comes in and applies for this, we really need to be looking at the specific circumstances of each application, not at an administrative level like we're rubber stamping a building permit, but at a policy level. That's why there were so many people at the Planning Commission when we had a proposal for the Main Street Airbnb. And as I said, I already have 4 within a block of my house, and I'd be very upset if somebody would be able to come in next door to me and all they have to do is file an application and I never even know that they're applying for it and this gets approved. There's no public comment, there's no public input, there's no policy-making body looking at these at all if it's going to be handled administratively by staff. And I think that's completely inappropriate for something of that nature in a historic town. So those are things that we need to be looking at. We're already at 2.5% if you look at 804 homes spaced in here. So the question is, do we need to go more than that? And if we do, why? What's the vacancy crisis, why we need more of these? Thank you.
Anybody else care to address the council?
I'm Jason Carpenter. My family's lived on Badger Street for, I think, 17 years now. Anyway, I really like what Byron had to say about the 2.5%. I think that's phenomenal. And I also think if you look at tax dollars back to the community, I think that a single family home occupied full time by a family would bring more to the community in revenue, tax dollars and things. Be interesting to kind of see that versus I have a number of Airbnbs on our street and they're often vacant. So I would just argue like for the best information. It'd be kind of interesting to see what the occupancy rates are, like we talked about between the houses and the hotels as well as just kind of comparing it to an average, family 100% residency, like what that kind of gives back to our community. So that's all I had.
Anyone else from the public? I'm looking at the time. I think we're like 10 or 15 minutes away from, I believe, what we threw out as a time limit on this. Did you want to try to pick up one item at a time or just have a general?
It sounds, from some of the things that I've heard from the public, they have questions maybe about some of the decisions that were made at the last meeting. With that said,
Well, there were no
start-
decisions made at the last
There was
meeting.
direction given at the last meeting, yes, no, okay with this, okay with that. I don't know if we want to just start over with all 5 of you. The next time we can all 5 be together, or try moving through this again.
I think it would be better to come back when you have all 5. I said that when we only had 3 the last time, because if we come back
Yeah,
at the next meeting, we have all 5, we're just going to be starting over again.
yes. Okay.
I agree, Jim.
That's unfortunate that it's been 2 meetings, or it wasn't at the last, it was a previous, it was
It's a month ago.
2 meetings
yeah.
ago.
Yeah, it's just unfortunate that we only had 3 then and 3 tonight, but I think it's such an important issue that you need all 5.
Again, we kind of ran out of time. We spent a lot of time on these first questions. Again, seeing where we are, we had about 20 approved, only 14 are operating. It's not about revenue for the city. Like we showed you guys, TOT is up, our hotels and inns seem to be doing really well. This is about 10% of the TOT revenue. But I do think some of the best practices around accounting and tracking might be helpful. I think last time the consensus was, yes, we wanted to do that stuff. And when we say consensus, we were trying to get 3 people. So we knew it was a majority. I didn't know if people that weren't at the last meeting had thoughts on that part of it.
That was number 6. That's explained in the original staff report, but has been removed from the revised staff report, right, Tom? Is that what you're?
I guess, yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe, again, jumping to the end, operating rules, conditions of approval. I did think we were able to reach consensus on quite a few items. We had kind of the tough ones were the ones where we started tonight, was density and that kind of thing.
I'm going to say I lean towards only allowing the short-term rentals in commercial zones and not in residential at all. That's where I fall. I'm not sure about anybody else on the council, but
Would that include
to me would just solve a lot of problems.
including the historical district, Jim?
Well, if it's commercial.
It is.
So it is. So our
Yeah,
downtown Main Street
yeah.
is downtown commercial.
Yeah.
And there currently are short-term rentals of single-family homes
Right.
that are in commercial zoning districts that do have permits that they get administered. There's are administrative permits. They're not required to get a CUP because it's a use that's allowed by right.
And that's what I think is appropriate. And then not in, I have 2 rentals in town. And Sutter Creek's a desirable place to live. They're long-term rentals. I really appreciate it when I have a good tenant that stays and takes care of it. And I do quite well with the market rate for a standard rental. And I think they're more appropriate in residential zone.
How would density issues be involved in the
I would-
curiosity?
In the commercial
In the
zone, if it
commercial
was
zone.
commercial, I wouldn't
Yeah.
worry about density. Because I don't think you're gonna have that many applications. We've only had, when did we first, start this first time around? When we said, was it
So
5 years ago?
2016, maybe?
no, when you gave staff the 10 or the 20, it was 2019 is when I believe when the direction was given to say, let us know when we hit 20.
And which we haven't.
No,
Got to-
technically we
Yeah,
have. We
we're-
kind of have, and
We
then
kind
when
of-
we cleaned up our
We
accounting,
bumped up to like
less.
18 or 17, 18, and then, but we only really now have 14 that are active.
Yeah.
So we're quite a ways from 20. So I think in commercial, it can be appropriate, but not in residential. That's right.
How could we, Jim, I'm just curious, thinking out loud, if with the commercial, we have residential short-term rentals now, how would those be managed in the future? Would you have to say, okay, no more short-term, your permit is going to be pulled? If they're in a residential area? I'm just curious.
I would say the ones, if they're grandfathered in,
Yeah.
that's, unless, until they change the
Conditional use
ownership.
permit's not grandfathered in.
The conditional use permit is
It is,
conditional, but it's,
there is one
No
of the
time limit.
conditions is that, it can be reviewed and revoked. So on our next planning commission meeting, I believe we are reviewing some that have been inactive for a
okay.
year plus. And so that would be one way for them to be revoked, or if they had complaints.
I would say as long as they continue to be in good standing, that they're fine, but no.
Not to add
no-
any more
no new
additional
ones-
ones
No new ones.
into residential
And then
area.
if they're not in good standing, then they can be revoked.
That makes this all a lot easier.
Can you show us a map of what that would be, where,
Yeah.
where commercial would be and where they would
So,
even,
You wanna
I mean,
look at
I
this on
I will start by,
that. No, this,
one of the reasons I wanted to
this one.
go through this process and have some real criteria and parameters for short-term rentals is I too, like a lot of these people, don't want too many. But I do think it's a different kind of travel experience that people want. There's 5 of us. If we go somewhere, I don't want to get 2 hotel rooms. If we get a short-term rental, we can do laundry, we could bring our bikes and your snowboards. It's just a different experience. It's not for everybody, but to make the place more accessible for more types of people,
Correct.
a few of them are nice. I think we're going through this process because we want to be very certain that we're not overrun with them. That's the point of this whole thing. So we're talking about caps, we're talking about densities. That's what brought us here. There's quite a rule of lists here for people that have them, that they have to follow with parking and noise and different accommodations. So it's not a carte blanche, but just to answer some of the questions, are there vacant hotel rooms? Yeah, but I'd probably go out of the county to somewhere where I could get a short-term rental to stay somewhere for a week with my family.
Showed up and said, you're out. Just speaking very quietly, so it goes both ways.
So this is a map of, so all of the red is commercial zones.
So the red you see at the top is coming along Main Street, the old highway, and that is for the most part the only spot in the city where there's commercial, where there's residential uses in the commercial zone. Like currently we have one on China Gulch that is commercial zoned, right?
Does that go all the way up Main Street?
Yeah.
So the house where we denied one is in a commercial zone and would be.
No,
No,
That's
and that,
here, I think,
yeah.
that's in the yellow.
here, yeah. So the purple on Main Street is not commercial?
The purple on Main Street is downtown commercial.
Okay.
So yeah, the red and the purple But not the purple, not the dark purple. It's hard to tell the difference.
Dark
like-
purple's industrial. I
Yeah.
believe.
Up there, kind of the newer part of town, I would say that's where the
Han-
uses are,
Hanford Street, just north of Main Street, there's probably your highest number of detached homes.
yes. Hold on, where's he?
That- That's the area where it's practical. Can you put by Hanford House there, can you kind of, that area,
Here,
yeah.
I'm not following you, Jim. Talk about Spanish Street?
No,
Or,
that's Hanford Street there, where you got your cursor.
right,
Yeah,
but going back or no, just straight on?
Hanford from Main Street going north.
Yeah, right.
We have one. We have one on China Gulch,
Just here, J.
and then, let's see, where'd the map go?
Los Kyoto is number, is it N?
And, yeah.
Is that, I don't think that's commercial there. Bring your map,
It
bring your
is-
zoning map back up.
It is, there's like 4 houses, 4 lots right there.
It's this
Oh, yeah.
little red.
No, that's, everything's to
Where
the,
the-
everything's to the north side of Hanford Street.
It's this little red
That,
spot.
yeah, okay, I'm looking up too far north. Yeah, I see it now. Okay,
Yeah.
that's Spanish Street. Okay.
So that is the only one up there. Let's see, where'd my map go?
I think at this point, we can continue this at another meeting. Jim
Yeah,
said that's your, and
yeah, I want I want a full council.
Yes.
okay, Aaron, you got that? We're gonna move on.
Sure.
Yeah, so again, Aaron's
Not much
she
to
doesn't come
get.
to too many of our meetings, but we'll try to get her back when we get all 5 of you here.
Yeah, let's make sure
Yeah, well, I'll check on your guys' attendance
I want to
first. before-
swing and
yeah.
miss. again.
Yeah. Third time's the charm, hopefully.
Mhm.
Do we need to do any specific action to continue?
I don't think so, because there's nothing to vote on. Thank you, though. Item B, discussion regarding the elected office of the city treasurer.
Yeah, so you guys have the staff report for this. You know, I don't know if I can share what you told me. Yeah, I mean, I've talked to Vicky. She said she wasn't planning on running for reelection. And so this is really, again, just a policy decision for the council. Cities have to have treasurers. At this point, most cities do not have elected treasurers. Since about 1990, that number's gone from 42% of the cities in California to about 30%. And there were some pros and cons for you guys to consider. There we do see some operational efficiencies. You'd have direct oversight of a treasurer if they were a member of city staff. There's also a cost to run elections as well as a stipend. It's relatively small amount. It's about $2,700 a year. So we really wanted to just bring this to you guys for discussion. Like I said, it seems like most cities at this point do not have elected treasurers. The city's finance department, does all the financial accounting. We have a new ERP system where we can generate the reports that you guys see. We're also in the middle of an audit right now. We talked to our auditors and they kind of agreed with this idea that it does not have to be elected as long as we have the controls which we have in place today, which is no one person can open a purchase, make that payment and close it out of the bank. It's split today, and that would remain true in the future.
Council, did you have any questions?
I'd like to speak as the current city treasurer. It's my opinion that you need to have a person who's not an employee of the city be the city treasurer, whether that be elected person or appointed person. Being that I've chosen not to run for reelection in the fall, I don't know anybody in the public that would be interested in doing that. If they are, they should come forward. My opinion is based on accountability. You need to have a person that is accountable to the citizens of Sutter Creek. And I won't go into great detail because it's getting late, but that's my opinion for what it is. The staff did give you a very nice balanced report on both sides of the issue. And I think that covers most of it, but that's just my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you, Vicki. I had a question on the staff report. Under discussion, legal requirement, the two hats. It says state law mandates that a specific individual must hold the title of city treasurer to sign warrants, checks. But Vicki, you didn't sign checks. I signed checks before the new system, right?
Never sign checks. I report on the cash that you have in your various checking accounts and investments accounts. And I look at the checking account. So I'm looking at the treasurer, which is different than accounting. It's
Sure. I was just
deals.
looking for clarification on this.
I've never signed checks because I'm not in the office every day to do that.
Do we know of other communities who have a treasurer as a job application that would apply
A
rather
job-
than?
A job application?
Well,
You're-
if you're I think she mentioned it should be a position that's applied for.
Appointed or elected, like if you don't have an election, I was appointed. But if a person wants to be elected, they go to the county election board and put in their nomination papers.
I think what she's saying is either elected or someone appointed who is not on city staff, like the finance director.
And we have the city treasurer that before me here also tonight.
Former city treasurer. Hi, I'm Kathy Castillo. I am a CPA. And when my husband, Jim Swift, was elected to the city council, I resigned my position as city treasurer, and I had been treasurer for 8 years at that time. But anyway, I would like to make a couple of comments about this proposal. I think it's a very bad idea. First of all of the treasurers in the county of Amador, all the city treasurers, they are elected positions. You have bigger cities that have lots of staff, and they do come, the city treasurer position is not elected, it is an appointed. However, in a small communities such as ours, an independently elected city treasurer provides valuable oversight. They provide accountability, and they are independent. And did I mention objective? And these are all really important functions. A city treasurer does not work under the city council. It does not work under the city staff. They are independent and objective. All right. And you need that. If we're a small city, a small staff, and you need this very important oversight function. And you need somebody that is totally removed
from the day-to-day operations that can look at everything with an objective set of eyes. You're not going to have that if you have a finance director who is doing all the accounting and there is no oversight over that function. You also need a city treasurer to invest idle cash and make sure that you have low-risk investments and that the city's idle cash is working for them and available. You also need a city treasurer to just see the whole picture when they're doing the monthly bank reconciliations. You certainly do not want any accounting staff or the finance officer or the city manager doing a bank reconciliation. You need somebody that's completely removed from that and can be independent. A city treasurer is equal to the city council members. You report to the city council members, but you don't have to answer to them. This is very important. You need that segregation of duties. I'm not sure what discussion you had with your auditors, but an independent city treasurer provides valuable internal control over a city's finances. And you can't have a small city like us with small staff and not have that segregation of duties. You're missing a very important check and balance. And I certainly don't feel that the council should be appointing a city treasurer when it is preferable that they be elected, because that is another very important internal control. You have somebody that is completely independent. You don't have, friendships or political preferences. So in your staff report, you mentioned redundancy. The city treasurer position is not a redundant position. It is an independent position. And that distinction is very important. You have two clearly defined roles. They are not redundant roles, finance and a treasurer position. Okay, they're similar, but they are not redundant. They are independent. So I think this is an extremely poor idea. I don't know why you would want to weaken your internal control or weaken an oversight function. I don't think finance directors should be investing city money. And if by any chance, well, let's see how I can put this diplomatically. I do think, Vicki, you're probably not doing as much as you could in the treasurer position, as there's many facets to the treasurer position that currently are not being addressed. Okay. There are a lot of people that have the necessary qualifications. Certainly, the city should set minimum qualifications for a treasurer position. So anyways, that's what I would like you to think about. There's no benefit. In fact, there's a lot of disadvantages. The most significant is that you are weakening the internal control systems of the city. And having been involved in numerous fraud investigations, I can tell you that that segregation of duty is very important. If you go to any municipality, any governmental agency, any nonprofit, there are always 4 positions officer positions in any organization. You have your mayor, your executive director, you have your board president, chairman, then you have your vice, you have a secretary, a clerk, and then you always have an independent treasurer position. So I really think that this idea to weaken it by having combining the role of the finance officer with treasurer or appointing a treasurer, you're just, you're hurting the internal control of the city. Thank you.
We'll open it to the public when the city council's done with questions. That was a guest speaker. Kathy brought up moving idle cash and managing investments. Is that something you do, Vicky? I didn't think that any investment decisions were made by.
I watch over investments and I make recommendations to the city council. The city council is the one that votes if they want to move money around.
Yeah, the elected treasurer does not manage the investments. We brought to you guys the investment policy. And again, it's been very stable. We don't move money around.
I was just asking because I've never been a part of
Yeah.
that. And yeah, I know that we have the LAIF fund is where it mostly sits in that.
Like last year, Mason and I brought to you moving into a higher interest
Right.
PD account. We did that for a while.
And that went to the council.
Right.
Yeah. I would expect, and you know, Kathy has a really good point about if we were to continue to elect a treasurer, requiring some sort of qualifications, and maybe 36% of the cities are all that's left doing it because not a lot of people apply that have the qualifications to be a treasurer. So if we were to stick with this in the case that we didn't have one, where would we be?
Yeah, I think again, the 70% of the cities are doing it with city staff. I agree with everything Kathy was saying about controls. And again, maybe I didn't say it clearly, but our financial controls would remain in place. Our treasurer is not part of the approval process right now. And I think, you know, it is what we are talking about is the idea that I think most cities go this way is because the staff are financial professionals, right? And that's their job, and they do it full time.
I will say that last November, maybe, I had 3 or so different calls from friends in Plymouth who were either on the council or staff or residents that are really involved. And they had, I believe, a new city treasurer elected, and nobody knew what they were supposed to do. Because the city treasurer a long time ago had done a bunch, and whoever was doing it before, or maybe it was vacant, hadn't done much. So I think that, you know, I think Kathy's right. It could probably encompass a great deal of things or not. And, you know, maybe that's what we need to resolve here is what it should be.
So there,
Well,
there's a written job description with the responsibilities that the treasurer versus the finance director. So there is a separation of duties. So Vicki, you go by a job description? Would you?
There's a city ordinance on the role of the city treasurer, yes.
Right.
Okay.
The elected treasurer doesn't work in the finance department. So the finance staff pull the materials, do the work, and then present it, and it gets reviewed.
Yeah, I like the concept of oversight independent of staff, not that I think staff would be suspicious, but I believe also to the separation of duties, just for general checks and balances.
I would think that the finance director would welcome that scrutiny because it it makes their job more transparent to the public and gives the public more confidence in the job that they're doing. So I think they should welcome it. That oversight.
Any comments from the public?
I, as a bookkeeper, actually 100% agree with Kathy. I think Kathy is brilliant. I really think that having an independent set of eyes on it that is not under the city is very, very important. You need to have somebody who sits next to you side by side with you versus somebody who is feeling like they need to please you. They need to come in with a completely set of eyes and give you a very, very non-judgmental opinion of everything. And I think they also need to be able to work with a finance person and a CPA that the city has, and they all need to work together, but no one is underneath anyone else. So I just say, I really hope you do listen to what Kathy was saying, because I think it's very, very smart to do it that way. So I think an independent person is the way to go.
Vicky, the treasurer report that we get every other meeting, once a month, that just comes out of the system, right? It's printed out of the finance system?
No,
Oh, okay. What does it come from?
I have a whole stack of books in the main office. I could probably show you how I do it. I get various reports from the finance supervisor and from the banks, from LAIF. And I put those all together. I look at those in detail. Then I put the numbers in my report that the city council, the numbers that you want. You can't come and present the checking account to the public because it has checking numbers and things on it. You don't want the public to see, but you do want to know how much money is in the bank, because that's the cash that you have to work with.
Right, so it does, that your report does reconcile then to another one. I'm just asking what it matches up against. Just trying to understand,
Cash
it's not
that's
challenging.
in the bank.
Yes, I understand. So what I'm,
You got a personal checking account and it says how much cash you have in the bank, and maybe your checking account might be a little different, and then you do a bank reconciliation. That's what Kathy was talking about. And
sure, so the reports that come out of the finance system, right, have the money that it thinks should be in the bank, and then there's the statements from the bank
right,
with the money that's actually in the bank, and they need to match, and that's what happens on the report.
they don't need to match, they need to be reconciled. Why, to see why you have different numbers, because the accounting system is a Curl counting, and I'm reporting on the cash in the bank, so they're going to be different.
Vicki, just on average, how many hours, say, a week does your job require?
It's just once a month I do the report, and that takes a couple hours. And then if the city treasurer wants to do the bank rec, that would take a little bit longer. We have a new accounting system, so I haven't been doing the bank rec because I haven't learned the new accounting system. So temporary asked Mason to help me with that part. But I don't need to use the accounting system to do the treasurer's report. So I'm still doing that, and I will still be doing that till the end of my term.
And thank you for doing that. So once a month, so how many hours does it really entail to produce the report that you give us every other meeting?
Couple hours. Anybody with an understanding of math and accounting background could do it. It's not that difficult. Because you're not generating any numbers. I'm looking at the numbers that are being given to me and then reporting them to you.
What I'm kind of getting at is, if this goes to Mason, who is typically overwhelmed already, my concern is adding another element onto his assignment.
Yes, it will be another thing on his plate that he's not currently doing, yes.
Well, it sounds like there's rather than guessing, did anybody want to make a motion on this item? If they did so, the motion would be to prepare resolutions to, upon voter approval, assign the statutory duties to the finance supervisor. Not hearing a motion, so we'll move on to item C, Bryson Park improvements.
Hello, everyone. So tonight we have an opportunity to apply for the ACF grant. It comes around every year and it's for $10,000. What we're proposing for this year is to see the appetite for a pump track up at Bryson Park. The back part of Bryson Park is kind of not really utilized too much. I don't see a lot of people walking back there. So we kind of thought this would be a great idea to introduce kids to more biking and kind of trail stuff. The pump track would not cost anything. If we did get the $10,000 grant, about half of the money would go for the soil stabilization. It's like kind of like a glue for the dirt.
The stuff we put.
Yeah, it's a different stuff, but yeah, pretty much the same. And the other half would go to solar lights if we wanted. That would increase the operational time a little bit. We would probably have them on timers to make sure that none of the houses are affected. And we would also put out a survey to make sure that everyone's okay with that. And then about 15% would go to admin, a sign, just little things. The city would be the one that would submit the application. We would do that in partnership with the Amador Trail Association. And I have Bradley here to give a little presentation on the track. And then Jeff Campbell would also be with us also. He's pledged to give us all of the dirt and the operational equipment for free to do this. So he is actually going to help out a lot on this. He would actually construct it for us too. So there would be minimal public work time for us to do this. And so we're just looking for your approval. If this is something you guys want us to move forward with, we'd like to hear that. And Bradley, if you want to give your.
I would only add to that real fast, Dan, that the grant itself specifically, I know, because I was poking on it for some other projects, is how do they word it, to increase activity and
Activity or, yeah.
yeah, it's specifically to get people to move outside.
Get kids off their computer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Brad.
Bradley Booker, Amador Trail Stewardship, and this is version 1.2 of the Bryson Pump Track proposal. We've basically identified about a 700-foot section that we can use to not encroach on the current park, and that would include a couple of rollers, berms, a track basically for kids to go round and round and round in circles. And then inside of that, we do a smaller track that had minimal or very or no features for kids on balance bikes, striders, the younger kids who are learning to ride and not quite ready to use the features. So the internal track there is blue. Yep. The outside one is yellow. And like we were saying, we've got the materials donated, the equipment donated, volunteer hours basically donated. The only hard cost is the soil stabilizers that we have to have. And then solar lights would be a add-on feature. Because we had so many donations from community organizations, we have the line item to add the solar lights to the site. So.
And where would the e-bikes be able to use?
Yeah, it would be the same. We design features for cyclists, whether or not they have a motor or not. We don't judge who wants to ride a bike. We just want the people to ride a bike.
So e-bikes are, what about e-motorcycles?
I mean,
This could get out of hand. Some of these, they'll go 50 miles an hour.
yeah, they could. We built one in Jackson over at Motherlode Land Trust, and we don't have an issue with that. People drive by every day commuting on their e-bicycles, their throttle bicycles that are not pedal assist, but we don't have any problem with in the park, people doing any of that stuff. So
You got history.
we do. And we're also looking to build one at Molly Joyce and Pioneer also. So we're looking to enhance the community with neighborhood access to riding bikes and learning how to ride a bike. As we have opened up the Amador Mountain Biking Club, we're learning that lots of Amador residents don't have a suitable place for their kids to learn how to ride a bike. The driveway goes downhill, right? The street goes downhill and there's no shoulder, right? So they go to a parking lot, they go somewhere else to teach their kids how to ride a bike. So having these little pocket parks in our community are only, enhancements for the future.
I noticed the improvements that I think you were building actually out.
Yeah.
In the North Main.
Mhm.
Parking area kind of there.
We have visitorship to that park every single day. It's really it's a highlight for the land trust to have. Mhm. So we would need to enter an MOU of some sort for, us maintaining or helping, facilitate that track perhaps, but otherwise this is kind of an internal project that we're just agreeing to help you guys with.
We need a motion.
So I think just the one thing that we added to our staff report was some notification of the neighbors that are along the back. And again, this question of whether you think it should be lit up or not.
I think I would like to see it without the lighting at first, just to see, how well it's used.
Mhm.
It's light till in the summertime, it's light till 9 o'clock, 8:30.
But in the
9 o'clock.
winter time, it's like 4:45.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
it is early. Now, we don't have lights at the other track, and it will invite a different usership. The basketball court, you guys already have a decision on whether or not it's going to light that too when you're there. So it adds a whole nother discussion, right, to the park of adding lights. But if you don't, we may consider adjusting the budget to include another feature because it is, I think, a quarter of the budget or so.
Yeah, I don't think, Julia, we can start without lights and then see how it goes. We're applying for a grant, so we need to decide what project we want. Yeah, and apply for that. My only question.
Yeah, more than 25%.
My only question was about the lights, but if you have the lights and they go off at 7 o'clock, that seems quite reasonable. Just, I don't know how much more light for
Right.
action on the trail you get.
Yeah, I was gonna say that they would be on a timer, so they would not be, we would set a time that they would go off, 7 or 8 or whatever we decide.
There is no light on the basketball courts. Is that, it's.
There are some small lights on the new bathroom, so we
Oh,
will have some lights coming in. And we've already gotten one complaint, so just to let you know
Yeah,
that.
I think I would say, and actually Chief O'Connell probably would speak best to this, but it seems like the parks, all of our parks are pretty much a dawn to dusk kind of thing. Yeah, so
And I don't know if
I would think we'd probably be inclined to stay that way.
I don't know if Bradley's aware, but the townhomes are moving forward, so that brown area will be houses. The track I just noticed it's pretty close to that brown area, so I'm not sure if that's somebody's backyard or
Yeah,
not.
and we'll make sure,
Yeah.
right, we'll make sure to the final submission will be laid out with a shape file that's, something we could follow to do construction on. This is a rough end.
So you mentioned notification of neighbors.
I mean, these homes along the bottom are back up against the park.
Right.
It's kind of a question, do we just provide notification, tell them that this is
I
moving
think-
forward and see.
I think you do.
Yeah.
Well, I think you should give them prior notification so they could weigh in on it before I'm all for it. I think it's a great idea.
I didn't really want to ask the question, do you like this or not, but just give them a notification.
That live there say no, and the rest of the city and the youth want it, then where are you?
But we can
Well-
notify them and see if people
What-
respond,
Well, what makes this project different than other projects that require,
It doesn't. We're at a city council meeting talking about it right now.
I know, but there was no notification given to anybody within 500 feet. So if we were gonna, when are we required then to,
It's a good question.
I don't know. I don't want it to come back clear and somebody say, well, you put this in, and I didn't know, we didn't know a thing about it, and then have to deal with that. I'd rather deal with it up front and get everybody on board than. have
So
it-
we definitely would do notification before we started any construction. I think, why don't we wait and see if we get the grant? And then if we got the grant, we would do the notification.
The grant is made March 20th.
Uh,
So
couple
like a
weeks.
couple weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we can apply for the grant and always not take it, right? If you're awarded the grant. But
Yes.
Well, we could,
I
we,
wouldn't recommend doing that. I would say.
Yeah,
Use your own money to do that and don't, this is the county, right? Like, this is for park improvements for the whole region. So let's be serious about what we're gonna do. Like, let's have it thought through and.
Did we do any notification of neighbors for the basketball court
I have
and
no idea.
the loop? You guys weren't here. I don't
Derek,
recall it.
Is there a requirement to notify residents within the 500 feet of this proposed project? No requirement? Okay, that's fine. There's no requirement, I'm good. I did,
But again, my,
I don't wanna-
my
I don't
my gut was to, if we got the grant, we would just send out a letter saying, this is what's going on.
okay.
But right, rather than surprise people.
Yeah, I mean, it's a park, kids should be able to play,
Yeah.
whether,
Yeah.
we wouldn't have to, I mean, if we're gonna put in a swing set for kids to play on, I guess you wouldn't need to notify anybody about that, so we're just putting in a track for the kids to play. I'm only bringing it up because I just don't wanna have to deal with it down the road. If Derek says it's not required, then I'm good. I wouldn't object to it, those houses aren't that close to it. There's a creek.
No, and it
Tree.
already designated.
It's already a park. There used to be a beach volleyball court right where that blue track is.
Right.
It never got used.
It's a kitty litter.
The litter box?
Yeah.
I mean, if it
so-
was something like pickleball where there was that pinging noise right behind their house, I think that would be
Well,
different.
Have a pickleball
got the
court there.
pickleball and basketball. but,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
But it's further away from
I think it's
houses.
a great idea
Yeah.
and I don't think there's gonna be so much activity on there that's gonna be disruptive to anybody's peace and quiet. I mean, I hope.
And if there was
Yeah, there's a lot of kids, hope there's a lot of,
Distinguished from the regular park use before that.
I hope there's a
believe.
lot of kids using it, but it's not gonna be excessive or.
I don't think there's going to be any more noise than if you put in other park, if you put in like full swing sets and full recreational, typical park things, that's still going to create the same amount of noise.
Well, a swimming pool would be much noisier than this. So,
So you're just wanting a recommendation or do you want us to vote?
Yeah, I think you should. Go ahead and vote. And again, were you guys clear on the lights at this
Yeah.
point?
As long as they're limited to reasonable hours, not till 11 o'clock at night,
I move that
I
we-
thought no lights and a better track.
I don't know if we can make any significant improvements. The end goal of this track would be to pave it, right? It would lower the maintenance and it would make it permanent. So if we find a funding source in the future, another grant or something like that to bring that capital improvement, but we're talking about a $60,000-$70,000 difference between a soil surface track and and anything else. So building the features out of wood is like the phase 2 of hardening. But again, I don't think with the difference of the $3,800, we could build enough features to make the most of the track.
Yeah, I think that since the rest of the park is not lit and all of the parks are pretty much done to dusk, just
Mhm.
having lights on the track wouldn't make
Okay.
a lot of sense.
So that would reduce the request by $3,600?
Yeah, we would probably work a budget to add some hardened features. Yeah, add some hardened features, some wooden features, or we would use the budget.
Do you have
because
bike racks or anything planned? I mean, for.
We could do a
kiddies that come-
repair station, like they have the stands that mount to the ground and have the tools, or inflators and bike racks. We could add those things into the mix to supplement for those things.
Could you
Is
just
there-
leave the budget as is and then reallocate the $3,600 to something else without affecting the grant?
It's a grant, so I think we have to apply for what we want.
Yeah, I
to
think
do.
we
Yeah.
could, the staff and I could address the budget and proposal and
Okay.
without making any significant changes to the idea. We'll just change the budget from the solar lights to additional features on the track.
Does it bring any more potential liability to the city by having this?
You should have your insurance in place already, and then your
So that-
civil
that's
code,
covered.
civil code 864 or 46, whatever that is, if you're not charging for recreation. I know private landowners don't have additional liability for regular access and use, but that would be probably a question for this guy about if you add bicycle optimized features, if it changes the use of the park.
I don't think so. We list our assets with our RMA, and it'd really be a function of claims if we started to see a lot of claims.
Well, then I'll make a motion to apply for the grant for $10,000 with an adjusted budget.
Is there a second?
I second.
Pam?
Councilmember Swift,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Sturt,
Aye.
Mayor Gunselman,
Aye.
Councilmember Reardon absent, Councilmember Feist absent.
Thank you, Brad. Thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
Aaron, I didn't ask for public comment. Were you here for this? Whoa.
Oh.
Man, you stuck it out hard. Everyone else is gone. Yeah, I appreciate that. Okay, well, I think we're gonna disappoint you here because the
When I
next,
leave and you can stay.
the next item, the surveillance technology, since there's 3 of us, should we wait?
It's up to you guys. This meeting's turned into a bit of a bust, but what do you guys think?
It's a new thing we haven't talked about before, so we probably ought to have more of us here. I will go on the record, though. We have exemplary attendance. It's just been a bad month.
I tried to say that earlier.
I missed my second meeting in 6 years.
It would have been probably good to tell Jim this several hours ago.
Sorry.
We feel protected.
I don't think this win is expected. Okay, mayor and council member reports.
So you just want to continue this item?
Yes, please. Is that the consensus?
Yes.
Mayor and council member reports.
I think it's a big deal.
Anybody?
I have none.
Jim?
No.
City attorney's report. We had correspondence in our packets and we're adjourned.
Top mayor.